Do you think the 49ers will solve their injury problem this year?
If I could be the beacon of positivity, I will
Please do. Okay, please do.
Yes.
Why?
It has to. Mathematically, this can't happen. Mathematically, this cannot happen. It is almost impossible to have this many injuries happen again. So look, I hate to say this because it's been a large discussion on 49ers Twitter about, okay, downplaying the significance of injuries because of who it happened to.
Yeah.
But we still have to dissect this from a straight-up team outlook.
Yep.
So
I was going over the silver lining with my dad. What are the silver linings from OTAs? This guy didn't get hurt. This guy didn't get hurt. This guy didn't get hurt. I mean, honestly.
D4, they're still fingers crossed that D4 is going to be fine. Jalen Hurts on track. Those were the things we were really looking for.
Right.
Justin School, look, I am hurting for Justin School and Tarvarius Moore. And I do not want to talk about this and be dismissive in any way, but Justin School was probably on the roster bubble.
It's true.
At this point. Because
it doesn't necessarily hurt the night. They didn't necessarily lose any games.
Right.
I think the Jeff Wilson Jr. injury hurts the most because you got to find 10 touchdowns. You got to find 10 touchdowns. And that's not necessarily something that Kittle's going to give you. So that hurts. The other two, I hurt for them, but it doesn't necessarily hurt the Niners deeply.
I'm hurt for T. Moore because he's in a contract year. And an Achilles injury for a guy who relies on so much speed can be death. I don't want it to be that, and I'm rooting for the kid to come back.
He's in a situation now where he has to sign a 1-year deal next year.
Absolutely.
All that he's got is terrible.
He has all the talent in the world. He just up here, he's got to figure it out. That's where he misses those coverage busts and things like that.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, so and look, science is different now. You know, when Richard Sherman tore his Achilles, he was older, but he's so smart that he was able to continue being productive.
Yeah.
With Tarvarius Moore, can he do that? He's not as smart as Richard Sherman, and that's easy to say because probably nobody's smarter than Richard Sherman as a member of the secondary.
Well, Sherman was always elite because he mastered the mental side of the game.
Absolutely.
Tarvarius Moore was a physical freak who was learning the mental side of the game. So they're like opposite ends of the spectrum at DBs.
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, I am not trying to downplay any of these things because there was a large discussion on 49ers Twitter about, well, at least it wasn't this person, at least it wasn't this person. And that's fine.
It's a tough thing to say without context. Right. It's like, man, that's really insensitive. But I understand why you're thinking that way.
Yeah, I'm not here to discuss that or discuss where I land on that or anything like that. I'm just here to be objective, cold, clinical about where this roster stands from now. And yes, Justin School might not have made the roster, and Tarvarius Moore was depth. And the 49ers drafted a guy who could play free safety. They still have guys that, remember, when we were worried about the secondary, we weren't worried about safety. We were worried about cornerback. And it sucks because Tarvarius Moore, I feel like sometimes he could be that third safety that they have in the box that they did in the Super Bowl. He played a ton in the Super Bowl because they needed somebody to match all that speed. So he does create those sort of plays for the defense because he's able to match up. And again, he has the closing speed to come from single high looks and the breakaway speed to get back on those sort of things. Yeah. So it sucks to say, and I hate to sound like I'm being insensitive. I'm not. I'm hurting for both those guys, but they're just, those guys were depth pieces.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the best way I could put it.
Okay, so you're optimistic. I'm a little less so. Let me explain why I'm concerned. I mean, all the injuries that happened week 2 last year, that was a free. There's nothing you could do. I mean, some people blamed the surface. Maybe it's just bad luck. It was just one of those days. It's football. Things happen sometimes. So there's nothing you can do to prevent that stuff. But what you can prevent is the practice injuries, the training camp injuries. And I feel like that's kind of glossed over, but that's where the problem started last year. Debo hurting himself on his own. Richie James hurting himself on his own. Ben Garland going down like day 2 of camp. Ben Garland going down day 2 of camp was really the beginning of the end for this team because they lost week 1 primarily because Jimmy Garoppolo didn't seem to trust Francis Grasu. I mean, they had issues at center all season. So the fact that the injury issues are happening again outside of actual games, to me, is a bad sign because this has been a constant with Kyle. I don't know what it is, but he has trouble keeping his players healthy in practices.
If I have one more thing to pile on the negative side of the Justin School thing, and this is the thing that I loved about how they drafted, because they drafted linemen. And for me, it turned Daniel Brunskill into the best backup center in football. Now, I don't know if he's allowed to just take straight center reps at this point because he might be pressed into duty to jump into another spot. Again, that's the issue more than anything. That was the part that bothered me the most because you bring in Alex Mack, cool. Daniel Brunskill doesn't have to mess around with guard, tackle, other guard, other tackle. He can just take straight up center reps. And Daniel Brunskill, I feel like, is good enough once he gets all those reps to himself to be the best backup center in football. Now, you might have to take a look and say, hey, Ben Garland, what's up, big head? How you doing? Are you okay? Do you want to come back? You might have to do that at this point, because if Alex Mack goes down and then Daniel Brunskill is put in a center and God forbid, one of these other linemen go down, now you're looking at problems that you had last year when Horonis Grasu was starting a center, when Brunskill had to bounce from guard to center and around. You know how hard it is to move literally from one spot, being a center, to move to guard, then to move to tackle, or those are like three. Those might as well be the difference between being a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a running back as far as responsibilities and what goes on, as far as offensive line goes. I was really excited with the idea that Daniel Brunskill was going to be the backup center. I don't think that that's possible now at this point. I think that they still have to keep him in that utility role. He's like the utility player on a baseball team. You play third, play short, in a pinch, play first. In football, you need reps consistently at one spot.
Okay, I just want to put a bow on this topic. I feel like if the Niners can reduce the injuries, we're not saying like eliminate them. It's football. Get down to the league average. Okay. And I think the way they can do that is they have to have some type of a plan for training camp to minimize injuries. Training camp and preseason, because that's where you're in control. In games, you got to go balls out, pardon my French, and that's just the way it is. And if people get hurt, that's just the way it is. It's part of playing football. But if the Niners can minimize the practice injuries, they should be okay. If you really go through your mind and put together a list of all the players who've gotten hurt in practices, Shanahan became the head coach. It's a long list. I think that's a great place to start. Find a way to minimize those injuries, and you'll be closer to the league average right there. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want to be negative Nancy either. This isn't the last injury that you're going to see. I'm talking about not about camp either.
No.
Wait till the season starts. Wait till the bullets start flying. So, look,
hey, that's part of the game, man. That's part of the game. But Kyle, you're in control of tempo and intensity until then, and you need to know which players you can push, which players you can't, which days to go hard, which days to take it back. These are all the little boring things of being a head coach that matter. Every decision you make matters, and it seems like that freaking short dude down in LA is pretty good at those little schedule keeping things, man. You could do that. It's nothing. We can help you. Jason and I are offering our services.
He listened though. I told him no more practices.
See, there you go. He already took your advice.